Hi everyone, my name is Elena and I'm currently a second year at Libertarian United World College, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my tips for your UWC interview. So before I'm going to start, I just want to point out I only went through the German National Committee's interviewing process, so I don't know how it goes in other countries, but what I can say about my interviews is I had two of them. They both happened on a weekend where they invited us to come, and we had different exercises and two interviews. One of them was mainly based on my application, and yeah, it was just like them asking about some of the stuff I said, because the essays are pretty short, so they want to know more. My extracurriculars and so on. And then the other one was about UWC and what could I contribute, maybe also what I'm afraid of, what are some of the challenges that I'm expecting to face. Yeah, it was just like a lot of like stuff that was more focused on UWC as a movement and like why I want to join it, and the other one was just like my application. Alright, so the first thing is something that in my opinion everyone should know, but I thought it's good to say it again because I saw some people in the year of my application who did this, so yeah, don't do it. Don't be late. I know this should be a given, but you know, your interviewers are gonna think that it doesn't matter so much to you if you can't even come on time for the interview. And you have a very limited time with your interviewer. For example, my interviews lasted 20 minutes each. So you don't want to lose a single minute of those 20 because 20 minutes go by really fast. Maybe for some of you it sounds like a lot of time, but I'm telling you, as soon as your conversation starts, you're going to like talk and talk, and it feels like 5 minutes, and you're going to be like, oh, our time's already up, and you're like, whoa, this went really fast. So make sure to use every minute that you get with your interviewers, and make sure to be on time for them. Number 2, know your application and know it really well. I did not expect my interviewers to know my application that well. Like they read it very carefully, they made a lot of notes on it, and they really thought about their questions ahead of time. And it was like the questions were very detailed, and you could really see like they read it like at least 2 times. And I feel like that shows a lot of dedication from the interviewer's side, but they also expect you to be just as dedicated and know what you wrote about. So you don't want to sit in an interview and have the interview ask you about, for example, a topic that you said you're interested in. You're like, really, I said that? That's interesting. Well, let me think about that. You know, like you don't want to act like you don't know your application. Your application should really represent yourself. So basically, if you wrote it well and you like only told the truth, you should know what's important to you and what stands in there. Of course, like you don't need to learn it by heart. Like there's no need to quote anything from your essays or stuff, but you should know what you showed to your interviewers ahead of time in form of your application. And that also helps you to anticipate some of the questions that might come up, because they will definitely take a look at your application and think about, okay, what do I want to know from this applicant? What are some questions that aren't really answered by the application? For example, the essays are really short in the application, so they might want to know more about a specific topic or an activity that you joined. So be prepared to answer those questions. All right, my next tip is to prepare one question, which I guess you have a 90% chance of this question showing up. And that is, tell me something about yourself. A lot of interviews, not just UWC interviews, start out like that. And this is a question that is so common that they expect you to have prepared for it. And you should have. Here's what I would advise you to do. Prepare an answer that is less than a minute. Start out with your age, the place where you live, and if there's anything interesting about your story of where you've lived, like maybe you live in another country, you go to school in another country, or you've lived somewhere else for a while, now you're back, say that. They're gonna find it interesting. They might ask about your experiences, what you learned through that. That's always a good thing to talk about. So, you know, make sure to mention it so your interviewers like have some inspiration for questions. It's always good to give the material that you're confident talking about. And once you like cover those basics, you can talk about your extracurriculars. Don't talk about your 25 extracurricular activities that you're doing at school. Talk about 2 to 3 try keeping it to 2, but if you really have to, 3, that are most important to you. But make sure that it's short, and make sure that the activities that you pick are activities that you can talk about when they ask about it. Make sure they're meaningful to you. And then you might want to talk about your goals, like, I don't know, maybe you want to become a lawyer and I don't know, work for the UN, or I don't know, if you have something like significant that you want to achieve, feel free to talk about that. And I would also try to end the little monologue that you're giving them on a positive note. So maybe you have like something funny about yourself, like any funny talent, you know, something that you wouldn't write like in an application, but it's just funny, or I don't know, like something cool about you that people like don't usually notice at first. Feel free to say that. My next tip is to think about your answers, like take your time. And you can actually buy some time during the interview. Like, for example, you can say, oh, that's a tough question, or let me think about that. Or if you're really confident and brave, you could be like, well, actually, I'm not really sure. How about you? So you can throw it back at the interviewer. Now, be careful. Not every interviewer is going to like that. But you're going to realize within the first 5 minutes approximately of your interview how your interviewer wants the interview to go. Like whether they want like just like, you know, a format where they ask the questions and you just give the answers, or whether they would like you to like treat it more as a conversation and they are willing to tell you a bit about themselves or their experiences or whatever. So when you realize that your interviewer is willing to treat it more like a conversation, you can do that. And some of the interviewers will actually like appreciate it when you do it. But don't worry, if you're not like the type of person that would normally like throw it back at the interviewer or something, you don't have to do it. Totally fine. So yeah, but try to like take the time to think about questions. Of course, don't think about them like for a whole minute, but like take 10 seconds to just gather your thoughts. If it's a longer answer, you want to make sure that you structure it in your head, that you're not just going on like rambling about stuff, because that usually doesn't leave a positive impression. Tip number 5, prepare for your interview. And I know that the German National Committee says you cannot prepare, but I don't think that's true. I prepared for my interview and I think it helped me a lot. Even if your preparatory interviews don't contain any of the questions they're asking you, you will still have gained some confidence from them because you already then had some experience in interviewing. And I think that's really important because at the time you're applying to UWC, you're usually in 10th grade, maybe you're in 11th grade, and it's important for you to gain some experience, because I know for myself, I had one interview for an internship before my UWC interview, and that was the only interview I ever had. So, you know, I had to gain some experience to be more confident when sitting in the room with my interviewers. So here's what I did. I asked a lot of teachers to interview me. I asked some relatives to interview me, and I sent all of them my application so they could take a look at it. I also wrote them like a little paragraph about what UWC is so that they know what the interview is for, and then I just let them interview me. I actually had one of my teachers interview me in English. That was because I said in my application that I'm also a student of a bilingual class in my school, and I was a bit afraid that maybe because of that bilingual part, they might be like, within the interview, like, oh, you know what, let's just like switch to English for this question. So that didn't happen, if anyone wonders. But, you know, being prepared for it just gives you like this feeling of security. And one thing that I would advise you to do is to videotape the interviews, because when you have a video of it, you can later on watch it and you can see your body language. Okay, my next tip is again about preparation, and that is you should have a solid knowledge about politics. I don't mean know everything in detail, don't worry. Reading a newspaper once a week should do it. You can also read a website, whatever, but be informed. Particularly be informed about your own country. So for me that was Germany. Like, you know, you don't need to know like the latest election results or anything, but you know some general stuff. Know what's going on, what is the current issue. They might ask you about this, like what is an issue in the news that really interested you in the past 4 weeks. Another thing is you should be knowledgeable, I would say, about conflicts in the world. Why? Well, because at a United World College, you have students from all over the world. And for example, some issues arise when students from countries who are at war with one another or who have a conflict with one another are living together in the same school. And they might ask questions about that. Now, if you're sitting in the interview and they're like, how would you help your friends? One is an Israeli friend, one is a Palestinian friend, and they have a conflict because of the conflict that their countries have. Like, what would you do? And if you're sitting there like, Israel, Palestine? I heard about that, but I don't really know what's going on. That's gonna look really weird. So, yeah. So you see, like, they're not gonna be like, okay, so what are the latest policies by Israel regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict? But they do expect you to know some stuff about the world, so. Alright, and my last tip is to treat your interviewer like they want you to get in, because they do. They genuinely do want you to get in. They put a lot of effort in preparing your interview. They read your application like 2 times. They write down all the questions that they want to ask you. They come extra to the interview place, interview you, then they talk. If there's a second interviewer, who they do the interview with, they talk to them and they ask them, what did you think? They have to write an evaluation of the interview. And then sometimes they're still involved like in the selection process later on, if they have any questions and they get back to the interviewer. So they really, really are excited about the interview. So be excited about the interview as well and treat them more like a friend. So that means be happy during the interview if you can. I know it can be really scary, but you know, it's also a really great experience because you get to talk about all the things you're passionate about because they want to know about you. They want to know about what matters to you. So yeah, I feel like it's actually a really cool experience. And even if you don't get in, you get a really good learning experience from that interview for future interviews. So yeah, appreciate it. And don't be afraid of your interviewer. Really, I know I was really afraid, like walking into the room. It was very intimidating. But actually my interviewers turned out to be like super nice people. And I think we laughed a lot during the interview. And I think at least I enjoyed it. I think my interviewers enjoyed it too. So yeah, I really encourage you to see it more as a fun experience than as this scary thing that you just like have to get over. So yeah, those are my tips for your UWC interview. If you're currently applying to UWC, good luck. If you have any other questions, feel free to write me through my blog, elenahandrick.com. And my blog has a contact section and you can just write your message there. Make sure to put your email there so I can answer you. And then, yeah, I'll just get back to you. And you could also check out my blog if you want to know more about my life here in Hong Kong. I also write about a lot of other stuff, but I try to like touch on my life at LPC like every once in a while again, and to like share a lot of pictures on like some of like the things we experience here so that people have a better idea of what's coming for them if they're joining LPC one day or another UWC. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye!